Kept you waiting, haven't I? It's been a while since I've dipped my toes in the water of Isekai. Or I would say that if Isekai wasn't washing up on the seasonal shore like just too damn many dead whales to explain to your children. You should be mostly happy at this point that I'm trapped in an abyss and can't do cutaways. Anyway, what's this screaming void got for me next? Ow. Oh. Well, look at you. All dolled up and ready for your Season 2 premiere here in a few months. Guess that means I should take a look at it, with a video, discussing industry trends, history, and using this as a thinly veiled excuse to catch up on anime I'll probably be watching Season 2 of in the future. And today's series is one with a middling sense of popularity, that for some reason escapes me on why people like it. Just can't quite put my finger on it, don't know why. But before you go off thinking that this is a standard review, this is a history and cultural impact retrospective. I'm not really talking about the merits of or my thoughts on the show, and more what it's done for anime and the publishing industry. So let's look at one in a long line of keeping the Japanese censors up at night, Isekai Mao to Shokan Shoujo no Dore Majutsu, or how to not summon a demon lord, because that's totally what that translates to. And while I have your attention, I don't know, hit subscribe and the bell notification to stay up to date on content from me. Just a thought. I know what you're thinking. Started as a web novel, right? And that's so common it's pretty much standard practice. But no, you'd be wrong. Starting in December 2014 and running through present day, this falls in a weird place as starting before the anime rush for Isekai was thoroughly on, when these sort of shows were getting picked up as long as they had In Another World plastered all over it, but after the success of Overlord, ReZero, and Konosuba who had won the self-publishing game, and were in the process of making the entire Japanese publishing industry their bitch. The original writer for this, Murasaki Yukiya, had been writing storylines for manga and light novels since 2010, and that's on a professional level, nor was this their only foray into Isekai. With, Isekai Cheat Senso, good luck finding any information on that, but who approached who? Judging by the fact that on their personal website they list themselves as a scenario writer, it's most likely that Yukiya approached them with the concept, since they had a foot in the door with their previous works. Anyway, a manga followed shortly after with a mere 6 months between both starting, which is still ongoing as well. Published in the same magazine as that time I got reincarnated as a slime, showing how eager the company was to get this thing an audience as quick as possible. I'm not entirely sure what slowed them down, probably less than stellar sales figures to that point, but 3.5 years after Volume 1 was published, and 9 volumes out by the time it aired, the franchise found itself with an anime adaptation, meaning in 2018, Season 1 hit, with a Season 2 slated for 2021, bringing us neatly up to date. So, how to not summon a demon lord? If you've stuck with me this long, I'm sure you've probably figured it out by now, but it's an isekai. That means dude, other world, probably fantasy, OP, and most importantly, a harem. But how did he get there? Unlike most others where it's a god or random twist of fate, this one was summoned there by inhabitants of that world. That's also pretty damn common. But at least this one's so old that it wasn't an established trend, as in 2014 Truck-kun was still on his killing spree. But he's summoned there by 2 inexperienced adventurers, and they try to bind him with magic to make him their slave. That backfires and turns them into his slaves instead, due to an item the guy had equipped. I love how little thought most isekais put into their introduction even this far back by barely getting you familiar with the character, usually a short monologue about who they are and their obsession of choice before, bam, other world. Also still reeling from that video game high that Overlord and SAO brought to the party, this guy was isekai to the game world, or one that's pretty damn similar to it, with his character from said popular game, where he plays an evil player character called the Demon Lord Diablo. Hence the title. So another popular trend gets ticked off our list. But at least this was in 2014 originally, where not as many isekais were necessarily doing that. I mean Overlord and viewed from a certain perspective, no game, no life, but this is only really aping Overlord in that regard, so whatever. It's not that the concept is flawed in itself, but there's a certain point that seeing super strong badass players in another world as their OP game characters loses its appeal. especially when the shut-in otaku loser shtick is only used for gags and doesn't really add much to their character or growth, since he's still essentially clearing the social encounters with his lack of communication skills. But hey, at least the dude is still trying to be a good person despite the whole Demon Lord RP shit. I guess that's as good of a segue as any to ask. Is our guy OP? Yeah, he's in another world as his game character that's max level, despite this also being the game world, but hardly anybody there actually leveled that high. Plus, we were told that he's a super strong solo player early on, with amazing gear and skill. He's built to be a badass that's there to make himself the focal point of that world with his amazing power, by enslaving another demon lord. As you do. And speaking of the world, hey, look at that. We have our fantasy world with magic, adventurers, guilds, elves, and catgirls too, why not? It's the standard affair for isekais, because originality in the worlds they go to is just asking too much. Didn't miss that? Sorry, I'm just tired of all these people going to an almost interchangeable version of these different worlds with the exact same shit. But the girls are the main draw, as this series boasts a harem tag and snagging 2 cuties right off the bat, one bimbo elf with big tits, and a flat cat girl early on, is exactly what fans are looking for when they tune into Isekai. And there we have it. Our OP protagonist in another fantasy world with a harem of girls? It really doesn't get more Isekai than that. But how does this one differentiate itself from the pack? I would say where this series stands out the most would be in the blatant ecchi elements. As while other isekais to this point had pervy scenes, lewd characters, and toyed with the idea, this one really leans into the harem and fan service to appeal to its viewers. The girls tend to strip off their clothes pretty quick, and there's literally magic and forced slavery in this series, especially on the cute girls. But at least it's aware of how stupid this premise is, and uses that as the vehicle for more comedic scenes like, I can't believe that worked, sort of stuff. While the enslavement is more an impetus to get the characters to stay together, as the girls dictate where they go and what they do, there are points it toes the line of romanticizing owning people, and that's a little fucked up, but at least he doesn't use the pack to force the girls to do shit they don't want to do. And he actually wins their hearts? Mixed bag to say the least, but less creepy than you'd imagine, by utilizing the comedy tag effectively for subverting audience expectation, while reinforcing some of the negative stereotypes of isekai with excessive ecchi and a flat-out advertised harem. The series was still absurdly popular. In March of 2018, before the anime even aired, the franchise was already boasting over 1 million light novel sales, which isn't that impressive, especially when you realize that it had been out for over 3 years. And those were cumulative sales for the 9 volumes that were only hitting 1 million. But this was before the anime bump that series like this inevitably get, and how well the sales figures are before the anime is kinda moot, at least in the West, because it's doing really well over here. In 2019, it was Crunchyroll's 7th most viewed anime on its platform. Not to mention with Season 2 airing, there is a market for this, showing that people are paying attention to this series. I won't say this is revolutionary in any regard. It's pretty standard for an isekai that just so happens to nail its core themes competently. Well, not just that, but has elements that people watch isekai for. Good fights, cute girls, fantasy races, the occasional joke, and pure escapism. In that way, it's sort of set the bars for isekai to pass, or else they'll flounder to the bottom of the anime pool, being forgotten until some idiot like me drags them out for a laugh. And this one, at least, had the good sense to be entertaining to the majority of its viewers. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the other YouTube stuff to help the channel grow. You can also join my Discord with a link down in the description. And hey, look at that, there's also a Patreon down there too. Support me and pick up some extra perks at the same time. Thanks for watching.